Hi, everybody, and welcome again to the Culture Podcast. As you know, for the last couple of weeks, we've been kind of focusing on our new theme at Art Labs, which is really about elevate. Elevate means about going to the next dimension, moving up, and really being kind of ready to be the bigger and greater self that you're destined to be. Today, I'm very, very excited to welcome my guest, and with me today is Cindy Lee. Cindy Lee, welcome to the podcast. And today, I believe we are talking about a very interesting topic, which is really about that if you want to elevate, you need to elevate your consistency. So, welcome. And maybe you want to just quickly introduce who you are and what you do at Art Labs, and then we can have a discussion around consistency.
Thank you, Marlon. Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody. I'm Cindy Lee Stander, and I'm the Chief of Enterprise Development at R Labs. And one of the, rather say my favorite things is working and engaging with entrepreneurs.
Absolutely love it. So, we're talking about elevating and elevate your consistency. Now, one of my favorite authors, the guy by the name of Paul. And Paul says, let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time, you will reap a harvest if we do not give up. In other words, if you persevere, if you can be consistent at the right time, you will actually reap the harvest. So consistency is of course, very important in the work that you do, especially working with entrepreneurs. Perhaps I want you to kind of share a little bit of your thoughts when you think about consistency, and what do you believe what does that mean for you in when it comes related to elevating?
Well, consistency for me, and this translates to both my professional life and my personal life, is having the intrinsic motivation to keep going. Whatever life throws at you, however challenging things can become, is that you are able to get up consistently every time after a fall. So I think that with that approach, you are always able to improve what you are doing. You are able to learn from certain mistakes and challenges along the way. So I think that looking at it from that perspective, that you are able to have that internal motivation, that dedication, that commitment to getting up every time things might go wrong, that it can help in elevating in your life.
Yeah, I love that. The fact that you consistently getting up, because it's so easy to give up when things are hard, when things are not going according to plan. But if you can just be consistent in your perseverance, if you can be consistent in not giving up, and I think that is such an important quality. One of the things you mentioned was that consistency can take you literally from being average to excellence, right? It can take you from doing the ordinary to doing something that's extraordinary if you can just remain consistent. Maybe you want to elaborate just on this thing about how consistency take you from one dimension to another dimension.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think perhaps I can use my academic career as an example. I always wanted to study, but I was never ready, was never prepared to do that. And a friend of mine actually said, because I also had a fear of the time that it would take for me to study. It would take 3 years for me to study. And a friend of mine said that, the time is going to pass anyway. So you might as well start studying. You might as well do it, because the 3 years is going to pass anyway. So I might as well just not live in the fear of the time that's going to pass, because, the time is going to happen anyway. And I think, right now I'm in my second year of studying, and it goes by so quickly, and I'm learning so much, and I'm reaping the rewards of that. And something that I always have in the back of my mind is that I'm doing it for my future self. And that I am working towards something that I'm going to benefit from later if I'm not benefiting from it right now. But I'm putting in the work that it takes for me to get to where I need to be. And of course, with that, it also comes with the little incremental changes that I need to make, or things that I need to do that is going to help me get there. So it might not be consistently every day. It might not be not every day, but it might be a couple of times in the week, or because I even had a conversation with Christine the other day, and she said that consistency is not necessarily every day. It might be 3 times within a week. but it's just that little bit, the little bit of effort that you put in consistently,
Yeah.
that will help you get there.
Consistently doing small things or small steps will get you a long way.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we always see this big kind of vision, or we see this big thing that we want to accomplish, but it just starts by doing a little step.
Yes.
But doing that little step consistently over time becomes a lot of steps. And a lot of steps means you can go the distance.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a important thought. And when you think of, for many people that's listening and watching, if they are now saying, you know what, I'm trying, but it's so easy for me that after a while I become despondent, or I give up. What would be some of your advice to those that are on a journey, right? They see a picture, but they're just not able to be consistent, because maybe it's circumstances, maybe it's self-belief. What would be some of your thoughts or things that you would want to share with people that, that for them to apply to elevate consistently, and what they can do in order for them to kind of go on this journey of consistency?
I think, like I've mentioned before, it's definitely intrinsic motivation. You need to know, or perhaps even have a driving force that helps to get you there. You need to have a goal. You need to see something. There should be a vision. If you are on a specific path or you're wanting to achieve something, there must be a vision. You must know what you are working towards, no matter how audacious it may seem, but you should have something to look forward to, or to want to, or aspire to get to. And I think that if that is something that you are working towards, and it would make things much easier. And I mean, it's in one of the things that you also mentioned the other day, that you should find a focus that drives your direction in whichever way you need to go, wherever you need to go. So if you are focusing on something, then you know exactly, this is what I'm working towards, whether it's daily, whether it's weekly, monthly. But it's definitely finding that specific focus, I'd say.
And I like what you said earlier, because you said earlier also being willing to consistently get up.
Yeah.
In other words, sometimes things are not moving. Sometimes you feel I'm stuck and I feel despondent, but I'm willing to get up. I'm willing to stand up. And by doing that, it also means, because if I think of movement, if I think of elevation, you can only elevate or move if you're willing to get up. And I'm not just talking about physically getting up, but getting up mentally, getting up spiritually with the heart. There's something about being able to rise up, to get up, because that's if we're looking, that's how you move, right? Movement comes if you're willing to get up. That's how it starts. And like you've mentioned, that if you have the vision, if you have the focus, and you're able to consistently get up, it can actually make a big difference. And one of the things that I've also learned from you specifically has been the fact of, so it's being consistent in taking small steps, being consistent in getting up, being consistent in not giving up, but also being consistent in showing up, right? There's something about, by just being present, by showing up, that can actually make a difference. And I wonder because people don't know, but consistency is actually a superpower. People love working with people that are consistent. People love doing things with people that are consistent. Because when you have consistency, you can build momentum. Momentum comes from consistency. Flow comes if you're consistently putting in the time, the effort to go and do what you need to do. But on the point of consistently showing up, I don't know if you maybe just want to kind of share some thoughts or inspirations around that. Like, just being consistent in, I'll be there. Because it's easy to, when you're down or you feel like giving up, but you don't show up. Even when you don't feel like it, you still show up. Even when you're like, I'm still going to be there, because you want to ensure that your consistency comes even with your presence or with showing up.
Yeah, and I'll relate that specifically to perhaps relationships with people, because you mentioned just now that people want to work with you if you are consistent, and I think that it's important to be consistent and showing up for other people, because that also helps you build stronger
Oh, yes.
relationships and establish
Yes.
trust with others.
Yeah.
Because then they know that they can rely on you. And perhaps also in the workplace, if we know we have to show up in our environment at least, that people can see that, our communities can see that we are showing up, regardless of whatever's happening in the world, but we are still showing up for them.
Yes.
And I think that creates or establishes trust more than anything, as if people are able to see that they take you they take your word for it, because then they are able to trust you in that way.
Yeah, I love that, because our teams are currently out various parts of the country, and I remember we were in a community where a lot of people said, a lot of people come into this community, they make promises and they never come back. The fact that our team went back within a short space of time to go and do what we said we will do made such a huge impact on people. Before they even did anything, the words and the encouragement was, wow, the fact that you just came back, the fact that you showed up. And it made me realize, and very much, that your consistency in just showing up for people, being there for people. And many times you don't need to have the answers. You don't need to have all the solutions. But the fact that you're willing to be there does actually make a big difference. And I love that. And, there was one of the things with when we're talking about elevating your consistency, because to be consistent, you also need motivation. Like you were mentioning the word intrinsic motivation. But it's important that motivation gets you going, right? Motivation gets you moving. But it's consistency that keeps you growing. Your motivation can only get you to a certain point, but then it's your consistency that builds and grows you. And I absolutely love the thoughts that you were sharing. And maybe I wonder if there's any final thoughts from you when we think about consistency, especially around elevating consistency, that you maybe just want to share with everybody.
I'd also say that maybe when people say you must be consistent, that it's easier said than done. And especially for people who have found their flow, you can say, no, it's easy, just do this thing, just get up and go to gym every day, or wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning and start your day. It's easy for people to say those things, but it takes a special type of individual to, despite all of life's challenges, despite whatever circumstances you may have at home or wherever, that you are able to do those things despite, or you are able to show up consistently despite any of those things. So I'd say that is definitely something that you should do. Find the vision, find something that you can focus on, and find a way that it works for you to show up consistently for yourself as well.
Yes.
Because we can also easily do that for other people, but then neglect ourselves in that way, but also show up for yourself consistently.
Yeah, because consistency is all about doing it again and again.
Yes.
And one of the things that I realized with doing again and again is, we need to love again and again. We need to believe again and again. We need to forgive again and again. We need to pray again and again. We need to learn again and again. And the more we can become consistent in these very impactful things, and it can be micro things sometimes, but the key thing for all of us is, when we want to be consistent, we have to do it again and again. So, thank you so much, Cindy, for joining us, talking about elevating your consistency. And I hope that those that's listening and watched us today were able to hear and learn, and that they'll find something today that they can be consistent in, and that they will do it again and again. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you.